Welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching us today. We're on location in Parsippany, New Jersey at the Dialogic headquarters here in New England. And on our program is Kevin Cook. He is the EVP of Worldwide Field Operations for the company. And we're thrilled to have him on the program. How are you?
Great, Rich. Thanks a lot.
So this is the first time I've seen you since Budapest,
Yes.
Hungary, right?
Yeah.
We were together on stage 5 months ago, or 5 weeks ago?
About 5 weeks, yes.
5 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
That's about right. It was a Dialogic Connections conference.
Right,
And
yeah.
It's very well attended, and people all over the European region, Australia, right? We had people from Asia. It was really an exciting conference.
Yeah, it was terrific. It was the first opportunity we had to bring together a customer base from the former Dialogic and the former Veraz, hearing about the strategy of the new company, some of the product roadmaps, that sort of thing, both customers and partners. So well attended, and we've gotten some good buzz around it since the conference.
Now, speaking of buzz, I'm noticing that there's an increasing amount of buzz around this concept of build on, and I'm seeing there's banners here in the lobby that says build on Dialogic, and I've seen it in your marketing, and I was wondering if you could share with us what the concept of build on means.
Sure. I mean, I think the basic premise of Dialogic is really as an enabling company to both enable people to build business applications, those vertical and horizontal apps that really provide value in the market, either to enterprise customers or service provider customers. So we've continued with that build on theme that started in the media enabling part of our history. And we also now continue to say, look, you can build your network on Dialogic as well. Many of the former Veraz components that come to market, be it the soft switches, the gateways, the mobile backhaul, those types of solutions that provide either incremental revenue or cost savings to customers. So either building solutions and applications on Dialogic or building your network on Dialogic is really the reason we've continued to hang around that theme.
So really, I mean, virtually any data or telecommunications product can be built on your solutions.
It's
or service.
Yeah,
I should say.
I mean, we really have from the infrastructure to that application layer, really in the portfolio now, a much broader portfolio. So people have an opportunity to, particularly in the value-added services, as we see that evolving from traditional value-added services and now incorporating more data and video type of solutions. The build-on works quite well, and customers can absolutely understand that and know that we're in that enabling part of the business, not competing with them to build applications in the marketplace.
Sure. Now, you recently acquired Veraz Networks, a publicly traded company. You now are publicly traded. Your ticker symbol was changed to DLGC, which is the I think a decade or so ago symbol of Dialogic.
That's right.
Before Intel took the company, acquired and kept the company public.
Right.
And whenever you make an acquisition, customers potentially are wondering about how things may change. And one of the questions I've seen thrown around is what will happen to the direct versus indirect sales model, because Veraz had a direct model, and the question is, will Dialogic follow that model, or what is your stance on that?
Okay, all right, good. So maybe just a step back from that, as I've joined Dialogic about 2 years ago, I really brought a philosophy that said we need to serve customers in the way they want to be served, with the business model that works most closely with their business model. As we approach the enterprise market, if you will, and our touch into enterprise customers is done much more through solution developers, independent software vendors, ISVs, resellers, if you will, in more of the appliance sort of a market. So that, while it at times may be direct touch with some of the large enterprise players, it's typically through an OEM, an ISV, a solution sort of partner that's building apps. So that's really our customer as we approach the enterprise. So I would call that a bit more of an indirect model, a channel-led model, if you will, with those different types of channels there. As we look to the service provider model, certainly Veraz had much more of a direct touch and direct fulfillment sort of model. Some of it depends on the country you're in, and getting solutions into that country through various means. Sometimes you can do that directly, sometimes you need to do it through channel partners. But in the service provider realm, we very much feel that direct touch is essential. They've got to understand, first of all, Dialogic. We need to establish a stronger brand within the service providers, and doing a direct touch model there, meaning educating them, making them aware of the portfolio, the value we can bring, not only in the infrastructure layer that former Veraz had, but how we can now bring these value-added services partners that have built apps and solutions on Dialogic to them to add average revenue per user, right? I mean, that's really what these service providers are looking to do. So in that case, we certainly will continue to be direct touch. At times we'll directly fulfill if it's in the area of the smart switching, the class 4 type switches and some of the gateways that surround that. And in many other cases, we will do this through the large TEMs or the large SIs that are really looking to, take a whole carrier's network to the next generation networks and things of that nature. So still flexible in the model depending on what that end user customer really desires and, the path of least resistance, if you will, of getting our solutions into those markets.
Now, Microsoft has changed the name of OCS to Link. I think it's now the third name for the product in a number of years. But I was in a seminar, I guess a press conference with the company perhaps 2 months ago, and it's quite impressive what it can do now. And the new name, theoretically, although I haven't confirmed with Microsoft, was chosen so that you can interchange it with Skype. I Skyped you or I linked you as opposed to I OCS'd you.
Okay.
Which doesn't,
All right.
I mean, that's the word on the street. I haven't confirmed it.
Okay.
It makes sense. Question is, I know you're a close partner in terms of, you have discussed in the past how unified communications and gateways and working with Microsoft was crucial to your future. What do you think about Link and what's happening there?
Well, I mean, I think Microsoft continues to make great strides in not only their solution and the technology that underpins it, but in their market presence and, companies are becoming more aware of the value they can provide. I see Microsoft as one of the major players in this unified communication space, obviously, but that gives enterprises in particular and service provider for their internal usage to the ability to increase collaboration and to unify some of the various disparate maybe communication functions they have within their organization. Obviously, there's a big push on productivity, right, as everyone needs to produce more. The types of tools that Link, as well as the types of things that Avaya does or Cisco does in this space, really allows people to do more of that, a much more unified approach to how they're communicating with customers, suppliers, as well as inside their own companies. We have used the OCS product within Dialogic, for instance. I just got off a call that was an OCS call, as we might still call it, and you're able to just key people right in. You're not necessarily setting up the bridges ahead of time.
So you OCS
like
someone
so,
just now.
Yeah, I was being OCS'd, I'll put it that way. So I got OCS'd, or in the future maybe I got linked, I guess, is what you're trying to say. Yeah.
So your chairman of the board and CEO, Nick Jensen, is a huge fan of video. He's been talking about it for years and years, and it's obviously an important component of what your company does. And in the future, video transcoding, transrating is going to become a bigger and more important part of the business. And I wanted to ask, from your perspective, if you're seeing some video applications and services being more sticky, more desirable by customers than others?
I mean, there's a couple of things. The first uptake we saw really around video was going from maybe traditional voice and data value-added services and bringing video into it. Examples of that might be where we had interactive voice response and now it's interactive video and voice response, right? So that's certainly a part of it. We've seen voting applications take on that video piece. So many of the solution providers we had that were in the traditional voice value-added services space are adding video as another way to certainly increase their revenue, but to offer those type of opportunities to their customer base. As the emerging markets begin to get up to speed on 3G and ultimately LTE, you see the interest really beginning to rise.
Right.
And you're seeing the RFIs and RFQs come out where you've really got to have that ability, if you will, to handle video as well as voice and data. So we're certainly seeing an uptick there. So we've seen it kind of on our, the intelligent board space. We've seen now quite a bit happening in China and India in particular as they've gone to the 3G networks, the video gateway, which does a lot of those things, as you said, and also can act as a media server type application. So we're seeing those really acquired by the service providers themselves or the large TEMs who, again, are managing and developing those networks for those end user carriers. So good uptake on the enabling side. In the recent, let's call it 45 to 60 days, really big uptake on the video gateway side. We had our largest video quarter in our history last quarter, and we really see that continue in the next
Congratulations. That's really big because, you know, it's one thing to be right about a technology. It's another thing to be right about a technology that you got not only the tech right, but the timing right. Yeah. It's another thing to hold on to the messaging and the fact that you know that that technology is going to be successful, and to continue to be positioned well for when that technology comes of age. So it seems like that momentum that's positive is got to be especially rewarding to those people who have been working on video for three plus years, 4 years.
Absolutely.
And now to see that sales are coming in a market where it was a little bit challenging because the revenue just wasn't there for a couple of years.
No question about it. I think there was a lot of talk, which is good. And Nick's always been terrific about being a great evangelist and being out in front of the curve a little bit. And I think that this curve is catching up to his evangelism now.
And we all know about the trough of despair and how things get overhyped and trough of despair and then they take off. And I was just speaking with Jim Mackey a little while ago about how VoIP was one of those technologies that in 1998 we said that VoIP is the future, VoIP is the future. 99, 2000, 2001, a lot of people were discouraged about VoIP and they said, okay, well, this whole thing's not going to work out. And 2002 was a rough year, 2003 was a rough year, and something happened in January of 2004, and now all of those predictions were more or less dead on. And if you look at those charts of growth, they were escalating, and then they kind of came down during the recessionary times or during the telecom recessionary times, and then they almost came right back up in January of 2004. So the curve was pretty straight in terms of growth, and I hope that that's what happens with video too, because we're certainly seeing video consumption increasing, and now it's a matter of assisting carriers with generating revenue from video and reducing the amount of network bandwidth that they're using.
Right. I mean, as you know, the largest challenge for the traditional operators is how much of that bandwidth is being used by probably guys like you and I, right, with the iPads or the iPhones or the Blackberries and the, you know, the broadband sort of applications that we're all using now. That is proliferating like crazy. So bandwidth becomes a big deal. And one of the things about the Verizon merger is the fact that they've got some bandwidth optimization technology that is world class. In the voice side, they were known as the premier leader in that sort of thing. And now we think with the advent of video taking up more and more of that bandwidth, that sort of IP optimization is absolutely going to be critical. And we've been doing some testing with a couple of large service providers that have showed tremendous ROI and returns of investment in less than 6 months. So the combination of what we're doing to add value on top with the video solutions and the infrastructure layer to optimize, you know, the bandwidth and therefore reduce total cost, we think is a great combination for Dialogic.
Well, I mean, not only are you helping a carrier with a problem that they have, which is trying to ensure that they're able to maintain high levels of quality to mobile users, but at the same time, you are able to enable them to make more money via value-added services. So it's a 1-2 punch for the carrier, and you're kind of able to tap into two different budgets at the same time, which is really smart.
You're hitting on the thing that to me is most exciting about the new Dialogic is the ability to do both that infrastructure optimization layer as well as add the value on top, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing that.
That's great. Well, we'll be keeping track, and we hope you come back on the show and let us know what's happening this year.
Glad to anytime, Rich.
Thank you.
All right.